Your grey hair carries a secret code, an ancestral language that the capitalist system desperately wants you to ignore. Carl Jung, the revolutionary psychoanalyst, discovered something that shook the foundations of modern society. Each silver strand on your head isn't just a sign of aging, but a portal to ancestral wisdom and personal power. Have you ever wondered why we invest billions in dyes and treatments to mask something that should be celebrated as an achievement? Why does society condition us to feel ashamed of our own evolution? There's a silent conspiracy to keep you disconnected from your true essence, and your grey hair is the key to unraveling this manipulation. Jung realized that when we hide our silver strands, we're not just dyeing hair. We're erasing our connection to the collective unconscious and renouncing the power that comes with maturity. In this video, you'll discover the secrets that the beauty industry doesn't want you to know. Prepare yourself for a revelation that will completely change your perception of aging and authenticity. The ancestral code hidden in your strands. Deep within the silver threads that crown your head lies a mystery that has been systematically erased from modern understanding. Your grey hair isn't just a biological process. It's a living library of wisdom that connects you to generations of ancestors who understood something we've forgotten. This ancestral code speaks a language older than civilization itself, carrying messages from your deepest self that the modern world desperately tries to silence. When you look in the mirror and see those first silver strands appearing, you're witnessing the activation of an ancient system. Your body is literally transforming into a beacon of accumulated experience and hard-earned wisdom. Each grey hair represents countless moments of growth, challenges overcome, and lessons learned. It's your soul's way of marking the passage from youth's blind enthusiasm to maturity's clear-eyed understanding. But here's what they don't want you to know. This transformation triggers something profound in your psyche. Jung discovered that the graying process activates dormant parts of your consciousness, opening channels to what he called the collective unconscious. It's as if your hair becomes an antenna, more sensitive to the deeper currents of human experience that flow beneath the surface of everyday life. Think about the symbolism that has surrounded grey hair throughout history. In ancient cultures, silver hair was revered as a sign of connection to the divine. Elders with grey hair were sought out for their counsel, their opinions valued above all others. They understood that the physical change reflected an internal awakening, the emergence of what Jung called the wise old man or wise old woman archetype. This archetype represents the deepest wisdom available to human consciousness. It's the part of you that has access to insights beyond personal experience, tapping into the accumulated knowledge of humanity itself. When your hair begins to silver, you're not just aging, you're becoming a bridge between worlds, a keeper of ancient wisdom in modern form. The code embedded in your grey strands operates on multiple levels. On the surface, it signals to others that you've survived long enough to accumulate real wisdom. But deeper than that, it signals to your own unconscious mind that it's time to access different kinds of knowledge. The person you were in your 20s simply didn't have the neural pathways or life experience necessary to understand certain truths about existence. Your grey hair marks the moment when your brain has developed enough complexity to handle paradox, ambiguity, and the deeper mysteries of human nature. It's when you stop looking for simple answers and start appreciating complex questions. The silver in your hair reflects this internal shift from black and white thinking to a more nuanced understanding of reality. But the modern world has declared war on this natural process. We're told that grey hair makes us look old, tired, and irrelevant. We're bombarded with messages that youth is the only thing worth having, that experience is less valuable than energy, that wisdom is outdated compared to innovation. This isn't accident. It's a carefully orchestrated campaign to keep you disconnected from your own power. When you hide your grey hair, you're essentially telling your unconscious mind to stay dormant. You're rejecting the very thing that could give you access to deeper levels of understanding and personal authority. The silver strands aren't just changing color, they're changing frequency, becoming more attuned to subtle energies and ancient patterns that younger people simply cannot perceive. The ancestral code works through what Jung called synchronicity, meaningful coincidences that reveal the hidden connections between all things. As your hair grays, you become more sensitive to these synchronicities, more aware of the invisible threads that weave through your life. You start noticing patterns that were always there but remained hidden from your younger, less experienced consciousness. This is why traditional societies honored their gray-haired members. They understood that these individuals had access to a different kind of intelligence, not the quick, analytical intelligence of youth, but the deep, intuitive intelligence of accumulated experience. They recognized that gray hair marked the emergence of a person who could see beyond the surface of things, who understood the deeper currents that move through human life. Your gray strands are literally rewiring your relationship with time itself. Instead of rushing toward the future or clinging to the past, you begin to inhabit the eternal present more fully. You understand that true wisdom isn't about knowing facts. It's about understanding the patterns that connect all facts, the deeper rhythms that govern human experience. The code hidden in your gray hair is ultimately about transformation. It marks the moment when you stop being driven by external validation and start drawing power from internal sources. You become less concerned with what others think and more interested in what you know to be true. This shift in consciousness is what the modern world fears most. People who can't be easily manipulated because they've learned to trust their own deep wisdom. When you embrace this ancestral code instead of hiding it, you tap into a power source that has sustained humanity for thousands of years. You become part of an unbroken chain of wisdom keepers, connecting past and future in your own silver-crowned present. Why society teaches you to be ashamed of wisdom. The systematic programming against grey hair begins the moment you're old enough to absorb cultural messages. From childhood, you're exposed to a carefully crafted narrative that equates youth with value and aging with decline. This isn't a natural human instinct, it's a manufactured belief system designed to keep you in a constant state of insecurity and consumption. Look around you and notice how every advertisement, movie, and social media post reinforces the same message. Young is beautiful, old is undesirable. Grey hair is presented as something to fix, hide, or eliminate. The underlying assumption is that your worth as a human being decreases with every silver strand that appears. This relentless messaging creates a deep psychological wound that most people carry without even realizing it. But why would society want you to feel ashamed of something as natural as aging? The answer lies in understanding how power structures maintain themselves. A population that feels insecure about their appearance is a population that's easy to control. When you're worried about hiding your grey hair, you're not focused on questioning authority, challenging systems, or accessing your own inner wisdom. The beauty industry alone generates hundreds of billions of dollars annually by convincing people that their natural state is somehow wrong or inadequate. Hair dye manufacturers, in particular, have built entire empires on the premise that grey hair is a problem to be solved. They've invested heavily in creating and maintaining the cultural shame around aging because their profits depend on your self-rejection. This shame runs much deeper than vanity. When you internalize the message that grey hair makes you less valuable, you're actually rejecting the wisdom that comes with experience. You're buying into a worldview that prioritizes appearance over substance, youth over knowledge, and conformity over authenticity. The system benefits enormously when you make these choices because it keeps you focused on surface-level concerns instead of deeper truths. Think about the language we use around aging. We talk about fighting age, battling wrinkles, defeating grey hair. This militaristic vocabulary frames your natural development as an enemy to be conquered rather than a gift to be embraced. You're taught to see your own evolution as a failure rather than an achievement. This psychological warfare against your own nature serves specific interests that profit from your insecurity. The workplace reinforces these messages through subtle and not so subtle discrimination. Older workers with grey hair are often passed over for promotions, forced into early retirement, or made to feel obsolete despite their valuable experience. The unspoken message is clear. If you want to remain relevant and successful, you must maintain the appearance of youth. This creates enormous pressure to hide any signs of natural aging. Social media amplifies these pressures exponentially. Platforms that profit from engagement have discovered that insecurity drives interaction. Posts about anti-aging products, hair transformation videos, and youth-obsessed content generate massive engagement because they tap into deep-seated fears about becoming irrelevant or unlovable as you age. The algorithms actively promote content that makes you feel inadequate about your natural appearance. The dating world becomes another battlefield where grey hair shame is reinforced. Online dating profiles overwhelmingly feature people who have hidden their grey hair, creating an artificial standard that everyone feels pressured to meet. The message is clear. If you want to be considered attractive or desirable, you must appear younger than you are. This creates a culture of deception where authentic self-presentation is seen as a disadvantage. But the deepest level of manipulation involves disconnecting you from your ancestral heritage. Throughout human history, grey-haired individuals were revered as carriers of wisdom, experience, and spiritual insight. They were the storytellers, the decision-makers, the keepers of cultural memory. By making you ashamed of grey hair, modern society effectively cuts you off from this powerful tradition. The pharmaceutical and medical industries also benefit from age-related shame. When you view aging as a disease to be cured rather than a natural process to be honored, you become a lifelong consumer of products and treatments designed to halt or reverse the aging process. Your shame becomes their profit center, and your self-acceptance becomes their greatest threat. Educational systems subtly reinforce these messages by focusing primarily on young people and treating older learners as exceptions rather than valued participants. The assumption is that learning and growth are primarily activities for the young, while older individuals should be content with what they already know. This creates artificial barriers to lifelong learning and personal development. The entertainment industry plays a crucial role in maintaining age-related shame. Older characters are often portrayed as comic relief, obstacles to progress, or tragic figures clinging to their youth. Rarely are they shown as vibrant, wise, or sexually attractive individuals. This constant media representation shapes public perception and reinforces the idea that aging equals decline. Religious and spiritual communities, which should theoretically honor wisdom and experience, often fall into the same trap. Many churches and spiritual organizations focus heavily on attracting younger members, sometimes at the expense of honoring their older congregants. The message, though unintended, is that spiritual vitality belongs to the young. The ultimate goal of this systematic shaming is to prevent you from accessing your own power. When you're busy trying to look younger, you're not focused on becoming wiser. When you're ashamed of your natural development, you're less likely to trust your own judgment or assert your own authority. The system depends on your insecurity to maintain its control over your thoughts, choices, and resources. The secret Jung discovered about silver hair, Carl Jung's revolutionary insight about grey hair emerged during his own midlife transformation, a period he later described as the most important phase of his psychological development. As his own hair began to silver, Jung noticed profound changes, not just in his appearance, but in his consciousness itself. What he discovered would challenge everything psychology understood about aging and human development. Jung realized that the graying process coincided with what he termed individuation, the psychological process of integrating all aspects of the personality into a complete, authentic whole. He observed that people who embraced their grey hair seemed to undergo a fundamental shift in their relationship with themselves and the world around them. They became less concerned with external approval and more connected to their inner authority. Through years of clinical observation and personal experience, Jung identified a direct correlation between accepting physical aging and accessing deeper layers of the psyche. He found that individuals who tried to hide their grey hair often remained stuck in earlier developmental stages, unable to access the wisdom and perspective that should naturally emerge with age. It was as if dyeing their hair created a psychological barrier that prevented them from fully maturing. The secret Jung uncovered was that grey hair serves as a physical marker for a crucial psychological transition. Just as certain life experiences can only be understood with sufficient emotional maturity, certain types of wisdom can only be accessed once the psyche has developed enough complexity to handle paradox and ambiguity. Grey hair, he realized, was nature's way of signaling that this complexity had been achieved. Jung discovered that the silver strands weren't just dead protein changing color. They were external manifestations of internal transformation. As people aged and their hair grayed, their brains literally rewired themselves to prioritize different types of thinking. The quick, decisive, black-and-white reasoning of youth gradually gave way to a more nuanced, contemplative approach that could hold multiple perspectives simultaneously. This neurological shift explained why traditional cultures had always associated grey hair with wisdom. Jung found that older individuals with natural grey hair showed increased activity in brain regions associated with emotional regulation, pattern recognition, and what he called the transcendent function, the ability to bridge seemingly opposite ideas into a higher synthesis. But Jung's most startling discovery was that artificially maintaining a youthful appearance could actually interfere with this natural psychological development. He observed that people who went to great lengths to hide their aging often exhibited what he called psychological arrest. They remained emotionally and intellectually stuck at earlier stages of development, unable to access the deeper wisdom that should naturally emerge with age. The silver hair, Jung realized, was connected to the emergence of what he called the self, the archetype representing wholeness and integration. Unlike the ego, which is concerned with external success and social approval, the self represents your authentic essence, your deepest truth beyond all social roles and expectations. Grey hair marked the point where individuals naturally began shifting from ego-driven behavior to self-directed living. Jung noticed that this transition often triggered what he called the silver awakening, a period of intense self-reflection and spiritual questioning that typically occurred when people first noticed significant graying. Those who embraced this process often reported feeling more authentic, more connected to their purpose, and less influenced by others' opinions. Those who rejected it by hiding their grey hair often experienced what Jung termed midlife stagnation. Through dream analysis and active imagination techniques, Jung discovered that grey hair appeared frequently in the unconscious symbolism of his patients who were undergoing major life transitions. The silver strands in dreams often represented the bridge between conscious and unconscious knowledge, suggesting that physical graying was accompanied by increased access to deeper layers of the psyche. Jung's research revealed that the shame associated with grey hair was actually a form of what he called cultural neurosis, a collective psychological wound that prevented entire populations from accessing their natural wisdom. He saw the systematic rejection of aging as a symptom of a society that had lost touch with the deeper rhythms of human development. The process, Jung observed, wasn't just about individual psychology. It was about connection to what he termed the collective unconscious, the shared repository of human experience and knowledge. Grey-haired individuals, he found, became more sensitive to these deeper currents, more capable of accessing insights that transcended their personal experience. Jung documented how people who accepted their greying often reported increased synchronicities, meaningful coincidences that seemed to guide their lives in purposeful directions. He theorized that the physical changes in the brain associated with aging made individuals more attuned to the subtle patterns and connections that younger people typically missed. The secret Jung discovered was that grey hair represented a form of natural initiation into deeper wisdom. Just as traditional cultures had initiation rituals to mark the transition from one life stage to another, grey hair served as nature's initiation into elderhood, not as decline, but as elevation to a higher level of consciousness. Jung realized that the modern world's obsession with hiding grey hair was actually preventing millions of people from completing their natural psychological development. By rejecting the physical markers of this transition, they were rejecting the psychological transformation itself, remaining trapped in earlier, less integrated stages of consciousness. His final insight was perhaps the most profound. Grey hair wasn't just a sign that you had lived long enough to accumulate wisdom. It was a sign that your psyche had developed enough complexity to actually use that wisdom effectively. The silver strands marked the emergence of what Jung called the wise elder archetype, an aspect of personality capable of synthesizing vast amounts of experience into practical guidance for both self and others. By the way, if you're curious to go even deeper and integrate your shadows and light, check out the Sim Method ebook. It's a concise guide that can help you unlock your inner power in just 5 minutes a day. The link is in the first pinned comment below. The billion-dollar conspiracy against your true identity. The global hair color industry generates over $50 billion annually. But this massive economic engine runs on something far more valuable than money. It feeds on your disconnection from your authentic self. What appears to be a simple beauty market is actually a sophisticated psychological operation designed to keep you trapped in a cycle of self-rejection and endless consumption. This isn't conspiracy theory. It's documented business strategy. Marketing executives in boardrooms around the world have invested billions in research to understand exactly how to make you feel inadequate about your natural appearance. They've studied your psychological triggers, mapped your insecurities, and crafted messages specifically designed to create and maintain your shame about aging. The strategy begins with creating artificial standards of beauty that are impossible to maintain naturally. By flooding media with images of people who have hidden their grey hair, dyed their roots, and artificially maintained a youthful appearance, these industries create a false baseline for what's considered normal or attractive. You begin to see your natural state as deviant rather than recognizing the artificial standard as the aberration. Pharmaceutical companies have joined this effort by medicalizing the aging process itself. They've successfully convinced millions of people that grey hair is a symptom of decline that needs treatment rather than a natural sign of development that deserves respect. This medicalization transforms your normal biological process into a condition requiring intervention, creating lifelong customers out of everyone who ages. The technology industry amplifies this manipulation through algorithms designed to promote content that makes you feel insecure. Social media platforms profit from engagement, And nothing drives engagement like insecurity about appearance. The algorithms learn to show you content that triggers your anxieties about aging, creating an endless loop of dissatisfaction that drives you toward consumption. But the conspiracy goes deeper than individual companies seeking profit. There's a systematic effort to prevent you from accessing the power that comes with embracing your natural development. When you're focused on hiding your grey hair, you're distracted from more important concerns, like questioning authority, challenging systems, or developing independent thinking. Political systems benefit enormously from populations that are focused on appearance rather than substance. Citizens worried about looking young are less likely to engage in deep political analysis or challenge existing power structures. The energy that should go toward civic engagement gets redirected toward personal appearance management, creating a more passive and controllable populace. The financial services industry has built entire product lines around age-related anxiety. From expensive anti-aging treatments to complex retirement planning products that assume your value decreases with age, these industries profit from your fear of becoming irrelevant as you get older. Your anxiety about aging becomes their revenue stream. Educational institutions participate by subtly reinforcing the message that learning and growth are primarily activities for young people. Continuing education programs are often marketed as ways to stay current, rather than opportunities to deepen wisdom, reinforcing the idea that older knowledge becomes obsolete rather than more valuable with integration and experience. The dating industry has created artificial markets based on age-related insecurity. Dating apps that filter by age, cosmetic procedures marketed as ways to remain competitive in dating, and entire industries built around helping people appear younger than they are. All of these profit from your belief that natural aging makes you less worthy of love and connection. Corporate culture reinforces these messages through subtle age discrimination that encourages people to hide their experience rather than showcase it. The message is clear. If you want to remain professionally relevant, you must maintain the appearance of youth. This creates enormous pressure to spend time and money on appearance management that could be better invested in skill development or creative pursuits. The conspiracy extends to how history and culture are presented. Stories of wise elders, respected grey-haired leaders, and cultures that honored aging are systematically de-emphasized in favor of youth-centered narratives. This historical revisionism cuts you off from examples of alternative ways of thinking about aging and wisdom. Media companies profit from age-related anxiety by creating content that either ignores older characters entirely or presents them in stereotypical ways that reinforce negative associations with aging. The absence of positive aging role models in entertainment isn't accidental. It's a deliberate choice that maintains the artificial equation of youth with value. The supplement industry has created an entire market based on the promise of preventing or reversing aging. These products rarely deliver on their promises, but they don't need to. They only need to maintain hope that natural aging can be defeated. The real product being sold isn't health improvement, but the fantasy of escaping the natural human development process. Insurance companies participate by creating risk models that assume declining value with age, making it more expensive to insure older individuals and reinforcing the message that aging is inherently problematic rather than a natural part of life that brings both challenges and benefits. The fashion industry contributes by designing clothing lines that primarily cater to younger body types and aesthetic preferences, making it difficult for naturally aging individuals to find clothing that makes them feel attractive and confident. This subtle exclusion reinforces the message that fashion, beauty, and desirability belong to the young. Even healthcare systems participate by focusing primarily on preventing or treating age-related changes, rather than helping people understand and embrace the natural evolution of their bodies and minds. The emphasis on anti-aging medicine over healthy aging support creates the impression that aging itself is pathological. The ultimate goal of this massive coordinated effort isn't just profit, it's control. A population that feels ashamed of its natural development is easier to manipulate, more focused on consumption than creation, and less likely to challenge existing power structures. Your grey hair represents independence, wisdom, and authentic self-expression, qualities that threaten systems built on conformity and insecurity. How your grey hair connects to the collective unconscious. The collective unconscious represents humanity's shared repository of experiences, symbols, and archetypal patterns that exist beneath individual consciousness. Jung discovered that grey hair serves as a natural antenna to this deeper realm, creating connections to wisdom and insights that transcend personal experience. As your hair silvers, you're not just changing physically, you're opening channels to knowledge that has been accumulated across generations. This connection operates through what Jung called archetypal resonance. Grey hair activates the wise elder archetype within your psyche, a universal pattern that exists in every human culture throughout history. This archetype carries the accumulated wisdom of countless generations who have walked the path from youth to maturity, learning lessons that can only be understood through lived experience. When you embrace your greying hair, you're essentially accepting membership in an ancient fellowship of wisdom keepers. Your silver strands mark your initiation into a group that transcends cultural and temporal boundaries. Every person throughout history who has earned their grey hair through experience, challenge, and growth. This connection provides access to insights and perspectives that simply aren't available to younger consciousness. The process works through subtle changes in brain chemistry and neural pathways that accompany the greying process. As your hair changes color, your brain undergoes parallel transformations that make you more receptive to deeper patterns and connections. You become more sensitive to what Jung called synchronicities, meaningful coincidences that reveal the hidden order underlying apparent chaos. These synchronicities increase dramatically for people who accept their grey hair rather than hiding it. It's as if embracing the physical change signals to your unconscious mind that you're ready to receive deeper guidance. You begin noticing patterns in your life that were always present but previously invisible to your younger, more ego-focused consciousness. The collective unconscious communicates through symbols, dreams, and intuitive insights that become more accessible as you age naturally. Grey hair seems to enhance your ability to receive and interpret these subtle communications. Dreams become more meaningful, intuitive hunches prove more accurate, and you develop what many describe as a sixth sense about people and situations. This enhanced connection manifests as what Jung termed transpersonal wisdom, insights that go beyond personal experience to tap into universal human truths. You find yourself understanding things you've never directly experienced, knowing things you've never formally learned, and possessing wisdom that seems to come from beyond your individual life story. The silver in your hair reflects light differently than pigmented hair, creating a subtle, energetic shift that some researchers believe affects electromagnetic sensitivity. This physical change may contribute to increased sensitivity to environmental energies, emotional atmospheres, and the subtle communications that flow between people below the threshold of conscious awareness. Traditional cultures recognize this connection between grey hair and expanded consciousness. Elders with silver hair were sought out not just for their personal experiences, but because they were understood to have access to deeper sources of knowledge. They served as bridges between the visible world of everyday experience and the invisible world of spiritual and psychological wisdom. The connection to collective unconscious also explains why people with natural grey hair often report feeling more connected to nature, more aware of seasonal cycles, and more sensitive to the rhythms that govern all life. It's as if the greying process attunes you to frequencies that younger people cannot perceive, connecting you to the deeper patterns that Jung saw as evidence of the collective unconscious. This expanded awareness often manifests as increased empathy and understanding for others. You begin to recognize universal patterns in human behavior, seeing beyond individual quirks to understand the archetypal forces that drive people's actions. This doesn't make you judgmental. Instead, it makes you more compassionate as you recognize the shared struggles that define human experience. The collective unconscious connection also explains why grey-haired individuals often become natural counselors and advisors, even if they never formally trained for these roles. They develop an intuitive understanding of human psychology that goes beyond textbook knowledge, accessing insights that come from the shared wisdom of humanity itself. Dreams become particularly significant during the greying process. Many people report that their dreams become more vivid, more symbolic, and more clearly connected to their waking life challenges. This happens because the same neurological changes that affect hair color also enhance dream activity and dream recall, creating stronger bridges between conscious and unconscious awareness. The connection operates through what Jung called the transcendent function, the ability to bridge opposites and find higher synthesis. As your hair grays, you naturally develop greater capacity for holding paradox, understanding complexity, and finding wisdom in apparent contradictions. This skill comes from tapping into the collective unconscious, where all human contradictions have already been experienced and integrated. People who dye their hair often report feeling disconnected from this deeper wisdom, as if they've somehow blocked their access to insights that should naturally come with age. This isn't imagination. By rejecting the physical markers of their development, they may actually be interfering with the psychological processes that create these deeper connections. The collective unconscious connection also manifests as increased creativity and spiritual awareness. Many people report that their artistic abilities, spiritual insights, and creative problem-solving skills actually improve as their hair grays, contrary to cultural messages about declining abilities with age. This creative enhancement comes from accessing the vast reservoir of human creative potential stored in the collective unconscious. This deep connection explains why embracing grey hair often feels like coming home to yourself in a way that transcends personal identity. You're not just accepting your individual aging process, you're accepting your place in the great human story, your role as a carrier of wisdom, and your responsibility to serve as a bridge between past and future generations. The hidden power you lose when you dye your hair. Every time you apply hair dye to cover your natural grey, you're not just changing your appearance, you're actively disconnecting from a power source that took decades to develop. This hidden power operates on multiple levels, from psychological authority to spiritual sensitivity, and losing access to it has consequences that extend far beyond how you look in the mirror. The most immediate power you sacrifice is psychological authenticity. When you hide your grey hair, you're essentially lying to yourself and others about who you are and what you've experienced. This deception creates internal conflict between your true self and your presented image, draining energy that should be available for more important purposes. The cognitive load of maintaining a false image is exhausting in ways you might not consciously recognize. Your natural grey hair carries what psychologists call earned authority, the unconscious recognition that you've lived long enough to accumulate real wisdom. When you hide this visible marker of experience, people treat you differently. often dismissing insights that they would respect coming from someone who visibly owns their age. You lose credibility and influence that should naturally come with maturity. The dyeing process itself creates a cycle of dependency that slowly erodes your self-reliance. Every few weeks, you must return to the salon or apply products at home, creating a routine of maintenance that consumes time, money, and mental energy. This dependency subtly reinforces the message that your natural state is inadequate, gradually undermining your confidence in other areas of life. But the deeper power loss involves what Jung called archetypal authority, your connection to the wise elder archetype that resides in every human psyche. When you reject the physical manifestation of this archetype, you weaken your access to the wisdom, patience, and perspective that should naturally emerge with age. You remain psychologically trapped in earlier developmental stages, unable to access the full range of your potential. Your intuitive abilities suffer significantly when you hide your gray hair. The same neurological changes that affect hair pigmentation also enhance your capacity for pattern recognition, emotional intelligence, and what many call sixth sense abilities. By rejecting the physical markers of these changes, you may actually be interfering with the brain development that creates enhanced intuitive capabilities. The power of presence diminishes when you're constantly worried about maintaining your artificial appearance. Natural gray hair creates a sense of groundedness and stability that others can feel intuitively. When you're concerned about root touch-ups, color fading, or whether your dye job looks natural, you're not fully present in interactions with others. Your attention is divided between the conversation and your self-consciousness about your appearance. You lose access to what researchers call age advantage, the automatic respect and consideration that naturally comes with visible maturity. Service providers take you more seriously. Younger people are more likely to listen to your advice, and you're more likely to be included in important decisions when you visibly own your experience and wisdom. The chemical process of dyeing hair may also interfere with subtle energetic sensitivities that develop with age. Many people report that they feel more energetically sensitive and intuitive when they stop dyeing their hair, as if the chemicals were somehow dampening their natural receptivity to subtle environmental and interpersonal energies. Your creative power suffers when you're invested in hiding your natural development. The same life experiences that create gray hair also create the depth, complexity, and emotional range that fuel powerful creative expression. When you reject the physical evidence of this development, you may also be rejecting the psychological complexity that drives meaningful creativity. The power of authentic self-expression becomes severely compromised. Your gray hair is part of your unique story, your individual journey through life. When you hide it, you're essentially editing your own narrative, presenting a sanitized version of yourself that lacks the full depth and richness of your actual experience. This self-censorship limits your ability to connect authentically with others. You sacrifice the power of modeling healthy aging for younger generations. When you hide your gray hair, you contribute to a culture that teaches young people to fear and reject their own natural development. Your example could be helping others embrace their own aging journey, but instead, you're reinforcing the very systems that created your own insecurity about aging. The loss of seasonal awareness is another subtle but significant power drain. Natural gray hair seems to enhance sensitivity to natural cycles and rhythms, connecting you more deeply to the passages of time and the wisdom that comes with understanding life's natural patterns. Chemical hair treatments may interfere with this enhanced environmental sensitivity. Your decision-making power becomes compromised when you're focused on maintaining a false image. The time, energy, and mental resources devoted to hair maintenance could be invested in developing skills, pursuing interests, or building relationships. The opportunity cost of appearance management is often much higher than people realize. The power of mentorship and wisdom sharing diminishes when you don't visibly embody the experience you've gained. Younger people are naturally drawn to seek guidance from those who obviously have life experience. When you hide your grey hair, you may be missing opportunities to share valuable insights and support others on their own journeys. Perhaps most significantly, you lose the power of integration, the ability to synthesize all aspects of your experience into a cohesive, authentic whole. Your grey hair represents the culmination of your life journey so far. When you reject it, you're rejecting part of your own story, creating internal fragmentation that weakens your overall sense of self. The hidden power you lose when you dye your hair isn't just about appearance. It's about access to the full range of human potential that should naturally unfold as you mature. Every bottle of hair dye represents a choice to remain smaller than you actually are, to hide the very qualities that could make you most powerful and influential in the world. The inner transformation that happens when you embrace grey strands. The moment you decide to embrace your grey hair naturally, you initiate a profound internal transformation that extends far beyond your appearance. This shift represents a fundamental change in your relationship with yourself, your values, and your place in the world. The psychological and spiritual changes that unfold can be as dramatic as any major life transition you've ever experienced. The first transformation occurs in your relationship with authenticity. When you stop hiding your grey hair, you're making a powerful statement about your willingness to be seen as you truly are. This decision ripples through other areas of your life, inspiring greater honesty in your relationships, more authentic self-expression in your work, and increased alignment between your inner values and outer actions. Your relationship with time itself begins to shift dramatically. Instead of fighting against the natural progression of your life, you start to inhabit time more gracefully. You develop what many describe as a deeper appreciation for the present moment, less anxiety about the future, and a more peaceful relationship with your past. The grey hair becomes a symbol of time well lived rather than time lost. A profound shift occurs in your source of self-worth. You begin to derive confidence from internal sources, your experiences, your wisdom, your character, rather than external validation based on appearance. This transformation creates a more stable and enduring foundation for self-esteem, one that actually grows stronger with age rather than weakening. Your decision-making process undergoes a remarkable transformation. With grey hair as a visible reminder of your experience, you trust your own judgment more readily. You become less influenced by others' opinions and more confident in your ability to make choices based on your accumulated wisdom. This enhanced decision-making capability affects every aspect of your life. The transformation extends to your emotional regulation capabilities. Many people report feeling more emotionally stable and resilient after embracing their grey hair. It's as if accepting this visible sign of maturity helps you access emotional resources that were previously unavailable. You become better at managing stress, handling criticism, and maintaining equilibrium during challenging periods. Your creative expression often undergoes a renaissance when you embrace grey hair, free from the energy drain of appearance maintenance and the psychological burden of hiding your authentic self. Many people discover new creative abilities or rediscover old ones with enhanced depth and meaning. The creativity that emerges often has a richness and complexity that reflects your accumulated life experience. A spiritual transformation frequently accompanies the acceptance of grey hair. Many people report feeling more connected to something larger than themselves, more aware of life's deeper meanings, and more interested in questions of purpose and legacy. This spiritual awakening often includes increased sensitivity to nature, enhanced intuitive abilities, and a deeper sense of connection to other people. Your relationship patterns transform as you become more comfortable with your authentic self. You attract different types of people and relationships, often deeper and more meaningful connections based on substance rather than surface attraction. You also become more willing to release relationships that were based on superficial factors or that required you to hide aspects of yourself. The transformation includes a shift in your relationship with younger people. Instead of trying to compete with them or prove your relevance, you naturally settle into a mentoring role. You become more interested in sharing wisdom than in proving your vitality, creating opportunities for meaningful intergenerational connections that benefit both you and those you guide. Your professional identity often transforms when you embrace gray hair. You may find yourself drawn to roles that utilize your experience and wisdom rather than trying to prove you can keep up with younger colleagues. This shift often leads to greater job satisfaction and recognition for the unique value you bring to your work environment. The transformation affects your physical relationship with your body as well. Many people report feeling more comfortable in their skin, more appreciative of their body's history and capabilities, and less critical of other age-related changes when they stop fighting against grey hair. This body acceptance often leads to better self-care and a more positive relationship with physical aging overall. Your consumer habits typically transform as you realize how much time, money, and energy you were investing in maintaining a false image. This liberation from appearance-focused consumption often leads to more meaningful ways of spending resources, focusing on experiences, relationships, and activities that align with your deeper values. A transformation in your relationship with authority occurs as you recognize your own earned expertise. You become more comfortable speaking up in meetings, offering opinions based on your experience, and taking leadership roles that utilize your accumulated wisdom. This enhanced relationship with your own authority often leads to increased respect from others. The psychological transformation includes what many describe as a sense of freedom from caring too much about others' superficial judgments. When you're comfortable being seen with grey hair, you become more resilient to criticism and less dependent on external approval. This emotional freedom allows you to take risks, express yourself more fully, and pursue interests that truly matter to you. Your legacy consciousness awakens when you embrace grey hair. You begin thinking more seriously about what you want to leave behind, how you want to be remembered, and what wisdom you want to pass on. This shift toward legacy thinking often leads to more purposeful living and greater focus on activities that have lasting meaning. The transformation culminates in what Jung would recognize as individuation, the integration of all aspects of your personality into a coherent, authentic whole. Your grey hair becomes not just an accepted part of your appearance, but a symbol of your commitment to being fully yourself, embracing all aspects of your journey, and stepping into the full power and wisdom that you've earned through your life experience. Develop a spiritual or philosophical framework that gives meaning to your aging process. Whether through meditation, religious practice, or personal philosophy, cultivating a sense of purpose that transcends physical appearance helps you access the deeper power that comes with maturity. The journey of reclaiming your power through accepting natural aging isn't just about personal transformation. It's about reclaiming your rightful place in the great human story. When you embrace your grey hair and all it represents, you're not just accepting yourself. You're joining an ancient lineage of wisdom keepers who understood that true power comes not from fighting against life's natural rhythms, but from dancing with them. Your silver strands are not markers of decline, but crowns of wisdom earned through the beautiful, difficult, transformative journey of being fully human. In a world that profits from your insecurity, choosing authenticity becomes the ultimate act of rebellion and the doorway to your greatest power.